to be discussing something a little bit saucy.
So we're going to be diving into a conversation on the intimacy. I guess we're trying to approach it from a way that would be helpful.
I know for us, like, it wasn't like sparks and fireworks like the first time. Like, it was awkward.
I just get you to like sit.
Yeah.
Like just sit on my chair, like we like squeeze in.
My needs are met. You don't have to worry about me. Like, I am very happy. Hey guys, and welcome back to another video. As you can see from the title, today we're going to be discussing something a little bit saucy. But as with all great things, you need a little drink, right? Yeah, I feel like it's become a tradition, and it's going to become a tradition for us to make a little warm drink or sometimes cold drink before having a little sit down discussion. So why don't you guys make your cup of tea, make your coffee, make your tea along with me, and then we'll grab Winston and we'll sit down for this chit chat. Before you do that though, please, I want you to pause this video in just a second and take a look at something for me. Check if you are subscribed to our channel and you're watching this. If you are not subscribed, please do me the small favor, but big to us, of just hitting that subscribe button. I feel like we've said this a number of times, but it really helps us out. Do it! As a channel. If you are just stumbling upon this video for the first time and you're not sure if you're rocking with us, then take your time and subscribe a little bit later. Do it! But I am speaking to the OGs who haven't realized that they aren't subscribed yet, and you've just realized like, oh wait, crap, like I wasn't subscribed, but I thought I was. That's okay, I forgive you. But go ahead and hit that subscribe button now. It really helps us out. Do it! And it just tells the algorithm that you like our videos, that people like you like our videos, and it helps to recommend those videos to other people who hopefully will benefit from them. And this topic is a really important topic that we're going to be getting into, so go ahead and do that for me. But without further ado, today we are making a matcha. You guys know that, I want to say a couple of weeks back, maybe months now, I was on a little matcha kick, went off that, went on a coffee kick, and now I want to re-welcome my matcha kick back, because I don't know, with coffee I tend to have my drinks later on in the day, and I know if you're having caffeine, especially like a coffee, it can stay in your system for a while, but matcha has slightly lower content of caffeine than coffee does have in it, and it's slow releasing. So let's make a matcha. Telling them that I am back in my matcha era, so that's what I'm drinking.
Is matcha a good drink for the colder season?
I don't know, do you know what, I think I got into matcha because it just feels more summery to me, but obviously like a warm matcha you can have it like at any time of the year, so yeah. Anyway, today is a bit of a spicy topic.
It's spicy.
Why is it spicy?
So we're going to be diving into a conversation on the intimacy. And yeah, I think we've had one or two similar conversations before in the past, and those videos have typically generated a lot of comments and questions. I guess we're trying to approach it from a way that would be helpful for maybe a couple who are in a similar relationship to ours. So they might be interabled and they want to see what intimacy would look like down the line, because we're 3 years into our marriage.
Yeah.
And anything else you'd add to that?
Yeah, I think I just share the same sentiment. Like, it's our heart with this video is really to be a resource for other like interabled couple who are maybe early on in their journey, or if you're like me, I remember when me and Winston started dating, and obviously like I would be thinking about, okay, what would intimacy look like? Are there any resources that would help me to navigate intimacy as an interabled couple? And there wasn't like that many. Like, I think like sex and intimacy is a taboo topic anyway, and then if you add disability on top of that, it becomes even more taboo, and there's even fewer people who are talking about it or even acknowledging, you know, the nuances of it.
Yeah, it's taboo topic for everyone, but when it comes to disability, it's almost forbidden. So yeah, I think there are many people who just basically have a view that people with disability should be asexual, and of course that's not true. Just because somebody has a condition or impairment doesn't mean that they have the same needs or desires as anyone else.
Yeah, doesn't mean they don't have the same needs.
So
we're basically going to be sharing 5 tips to navigate or to increase or improve your intimacy as an interabled couple. If you do have small children or young children who are in the room, now would probably be a good time to put your headphones in or listen at a later time. Obviously, like, we're going to try and keep it like as, you know, kosher as possible. Classy as possible. You know us, like, our style isn't to be like super vulgar or anything, but we will be talking about sex, intimacy, grown-up topics. And equally, if you are of age but for whatever reason the topic of sex you find triggering or problematic or anything like that for you, probably isn't the video for you either. So we just wanted to put those disclaimers. Another thing, we also recognize that disability, the word disability, has nuances. Not every interabled couple will look like us, and so not every single one of these tips is going to be exactly applicable. So we want to recognize that, but nonetheless we have tried to include tips that are hopefully applicable to many people who are kind of like dealing with a similar dynamic where one partner has a physical disability and the other doesn't. So, and
share this episode as well, this video, because I'm sure there are many people who are probably searching for something like this right now as we speak. So yeah, it might help.
Okay, cool. So let's just get straight into it. So we're looking at our phones because we wanted to write down a few points just to make sure we stayed on track.
Yeah, so the first one we're going to talk about is what is actually possible when it comes to sex and intimacy, and having those conversations super early in your relationship or in your journey getting to know someone. And I think that's something that we try to do as well. Obviously, with my background, having the disability in our relationship, kind of already knew what I needed or what I could expect from an intimate relationship.
Yeah.
And so I think what I had to do was almost put myself in your shoes and kind of think about what are the things that you might need to know or you might need to understand that might look different to if we were both non-disabled. And a couple of ways that I did that, well, one of them kind of happened accidentally. So when we were having our pre-marital coaching with our pastor, who is actually the same pastor who married us and is still coaching us to this day. He was actually like really like, what's the word?
I guess frank.
Yeah, like he was super frank with me, like, and he kind of wanted to encourage me to have this conversation or to think about these things early, because even when you think about some of the big things that couples struggle with, sex is at the top of that list. So, he asked me those questions, is it something that you've thought about how that would look like? Is your wife aware of, things that you're able to do, not able to do, or that might look different? And that really got me thinking, because it's one thing for me to know what I expect, but you don't have that same picture. So the sooner we could bring those kinds of things to light, I think the more it helped us.
Yeah, definitely. And I think for me, it really just helped it not to be an elephant in the room. Like, we really established that early on in our relationship that we wanted to have a culture of just bring anything to the space. Yeah. And you made me feel really comfortable, like, asking questions that I had around like sex and intimacy and what might be possible, and that really helped me. So yeah, I'd say don't be afraid to have those discussions with each other. It will definitely, I think, ease nerves, especially like like us, you're kind of waiting until getting married to introduce that aspect into the relationship. It can feel like a whole lot of weight on it, but because we had talked about it, and I kind of like, you know, we both kind of like knew, okay, this is what's possible, and that it, you know, it is possible, it helped to kind of take some of those nerves off.
Yeah, and so I guess what we're talking about here is we just kind of leaned into healthy curiosity.
Yes,
healthy. So like really wanting to understand each other and get to a place of, like I know or have a good sense of what to expect with my wife.
Yes.
As opposed to, you know, unhealthy curiosity, which is just, you know, like some of the comments or the intrusive things that we see on the internet, or, you know, a stranger stopping you and saying, hey, you know, how do you guys do it? Less of that and more of like knowing the purpose of why you're doing it.
Yeah, exactly.
Which for us is to create a foundation of intimacy in our marriage.
Yeah. Okay, so the second point that kind of really helped us with our physical intimacy, and that hopefully can help other interabled couples, is being patient with each other. Because I think like a lot of people like have big grand expectations for what sex is going to look like, you know, on your honeymoon or early on in your marriage. And I think whether it's an interabled couple or not, that can be unhealthy, because it takes time to learn each other's bodies. I don't really believe there's such a good thing as like bad sex, or someone being good at sex and someone being bad at sex. I think it's just like learning your partner, learning what they like, them learning what you like, and then understanding how you can meet each other there. So I think especially in an interabled relationship though, it's important to be patient with each other, important to be patient with learning each other's bodies. So yeah, just allow it to take time. Like I know for us, like it wasn't like sparks and fireworks like the first time. Like it was awkward, and it was learning like, oh, okay, that feels good, that doesn't feel good, like that position works, this position doesn't work so well, and that's okay, that's normal. Like I think it's good to kind of like reset expectations, otherwise you can kind of like be in a good marriage that has the potential to work up to amazing sex, which I think everyone should be having in marriage. But yeah, because you just haven't given it that time, like it hasn't been allowed to progress there. And I think also in your being patient, don't be afraid to be creative and try different things. Like if one position or one thing doesn't work, try a different position, try a different thing. Yeah, like I think just be okay with that, like being patient like with one another. Yeah, I don't know if you had anything on that.
Yeah, I think all of that, and I think also a big part of that learning is, I guess, creating a safe space for people to be able to, for a couple, to be able to say, hey, like this is, you know, I really like when you do this, or like, I'm not a big fan of that thing that you love so much, you know, and actually creating those safe spaces, because, you know, I'm sure we've all had stories of, you know, a couple or at least one member of a couple, you know, doing this thing that they think is such a cool move, but the whole time he wasn't doing anything for their partners.
Pineapples, I don't want to do it. I want to go home. I don't want to.
So I think it's just creating that space and accepting feedback and using that as an opportunity just to bring yourselves closer in understanding. I always remember a thing our pastor again said was, I think this was during our premarital classes, and he was telling us a story about this couple who actually realized it took them up to the age of 62 to start having, you know, the best sex of their lives.
Yeah.
So it's definitely like there's so much room, such a high ceiling for all of us to learn and grow about, you know, in this area. So don't think that you just have to get it right straight away on your honeymoon.
Yeah, exactly. Like I mean, like 3 years in, like we're still finding different ways of doing things, and it feels good, but I think you kind of cap yourself from that when you set this expectation that like it has to be amazing from day one, and your partner's going to know exactly like what you want and need.
Because 3 years is a toddler. You're a toddler at sex.
Exactly. Like if you think about it, like in that sense, like that's a literal like baby. So give yourself some time, be patient with each other.
Okay, the next point is around getting comfortable with mobility devices or any other type of device that, you know, your partner with a disability might have. And so for us, obviously, that included, you know, my wife getting comfortable with my wheelchair.
Yeah.
Right? And that could be like a bit of a barrier, right? Because, you know, people, you know, they kind of hesitate when they see someone, in a wheelchair or using another mobility device, you almost like, you don't know whether you should be touching or, whether you should be asking questions about it. And I think one of the things that we did like super early on, and I don't know, I think this was the Holy Spirit because it's not something that I don't know where the idea came from.
Yeah. Oh, so you hadn't thought about it before? I think I know what you're going to say.
Yeah, like not super deeply. But at the time, like when we were getting to know each other, I thought like, actually, I just felt it would be really important to kind of take away that the idea that the wheelchair is a barrier in any way.
Yeah.
And so like one of the little simple things that we used to do was I just get you to like sit.
Yeah.
Like just sit on my chair, like we like squeeze in. You'd kind of be sitting on my lap and we just sit.
Yeah. And that, like, it seems like such a simple thing, but it did really help because I think in the beginning, like, yeah, like you said, like your chair is like a part of you.
Yeah.
So it's like, how comfortable do you want me to be with it? Like all of those things. But I think when you're in an intimate relationship and you have a physical relationship, it's important to find ways to, I guess, honestly incorporate that within intimacy. So I think like you having me like sit on your chair, that made me feel like, oh, okay, like, we can still have like intimacy and we can find ways to, touch and like, have all of those things like, with your wheelchair in a way that feels comfortable for you and for me.
Yeah, exactly. And that could extend to, not just wheelchairs or people using, actually to people using other types of devices. So it could even be as simple as, someone who uses crutches.
Yeah.
Right? And, we've all seen someone with a crutch. And, it may be that if you're in a relationship or your partner uses crutches sometimes, they might not be able to, for example, hold hands.
Yeah, while you're
walking down the street or taking a walk in the park. And so it's thinking, okay, like how can we create a situation that works, with those mobility devices as well. And it might just be that you lock arms while he or she still gets to use their crutch. So it's just having those conversations and just getting comfortable with those things being, like you said, an extension that support that person to do whatever it is they need to do, and not a barrier that should be hands off or should create awkwardness in your physical interactions.
Okay, so the fourth point is keep trying different things. I know we kind of spoke about it in point 2 is like being patient and allowing creativity within that. But I think even like inside and outside of the bedroom, trying new experiences together for us has really helped to foster intimacy because you do something, that's new for both of you or something that you're doing new together for the first time. And I don't know, I feel like it kind of just gives like a fresh energy and kind of helps to like fuel that fire like within your relationship, and you can kind of bring that energy to the bedroom. So for example, for us, like on our honeymoon, I love going to the spa. Like that's something that I used to do like before like we got married, whether it's by myself, like with my friends, like with my mum, and I really wanted us to experience that together. And you'd never had a massage, but I was like, okay, like let's do it. And I love that you were like, even though it was new to you and not something that like you'd naturally think about doing, you were really willing to try that and do that with me, and now that's become a thing that we love to do, like especially before having Malika.
We
like
love a massage.
Yeah, like once a month we'd like book a hotel, like get somewhere with a massage and just like have like a really relaxing weekend. And I know as well, like unfortunately we live in a world where access like just isn't where it should be in many places. So there are activities that like everything should be open to everyone who wants to do them. That's the definition of equality and access. So that's unfortunate, but also don't let that limit you if you are an interabled couple. Like do your research and be creative about the things that you can do. And I think as well, like something that has really helped us is if you are the non-disabled partner in the relationship, taking that responsibility as well of like if you're the one like who's planning a date night, like call ahead of time and ask like how's the access, because there's so many places that say it's accessible, like for example in their restaurant, and it's just not. And I think it can take off a lot of the burden or even like worry or anxiety that comes with someone who does use a wheelchair, like knowing that okay, that's already been taken care of and that person's called ahead of time to make sure it's an activity that you both fully can take part in a way that feels comfortable and dignified, really.
Yeah, agreed. And also, I think one of the barriers for me, for example, with the spa thing, I think it wasn't even necessarily to do with access, because I used to travel for work and I used to stay in some really, good hotels that were fully accessible.
Yeah.
But I think a big part of it for me was, thinking, if I book a spa, have they ever worked with someone with a disability, and almost being concerned about the attitudes of people and whether there would be judgment or just discomfort because maybe they're not so familiar with someone who looks like me or is of my background. But I think each time we've tried something together, I've been pleasantly surprised.
Yeah.
So, like, people are so accommodating, especially if you communicate and you express, like, this is what I need, or, like, this is how I can be super comfortable during a massage, for example. 9 times out of 10, I've never had a bad experience when I've been communicative and when I've kind of leaned into a new thing that I've never tried before.
And I think that's so important that you say that as well, because I'm sure there are other people who maybe like were in a similar position to you, like with a disability, or their bodies like, you know, look different and they had that fear. So I feel like it's really good hearing you say that, like, no, like your experience has actually been really, really positive. So yeah, keep trying those new things together. That will definitely leak into intimacy in other areas and kind of like help to bring that fire into your relationship too.
Okay, and our last point number 5, is around maintaining the mystery.
What's so cheesy?
No, honestly, yeah, I think maintaining the mystery is such an important thing to think about when it comes to physical intimacy, especially as a married couple, because, you know, from a Christian perspective, which is our belief, you know, sex it's sacred, it's a gift from God, and it is only for the context of marriage. And so something that is sacred is also precious. So we sometimes see those questions, you know, like we touched on earlier, you know, that are a little bit, they feel a little bit intrusive, or people pushing for us to share a little bit more than we would like. And so what we're trying to do here is find a balance of course, creating, you know, content that is empowering and that can be a resource to other couples in, you know, in our situation, because we don't think there's enough information out there. But also at the same time, maintaining a super respectful boundary around something that is, you know, God-given.
Yeah,
and so precious to us. So, you know, I'm sure even as you're watching this, there'll be people like in the middle of typing that intrusive question, like, stop right there.
Stop it. Get some help.
This is all you're getting. Yeah, and, you know, for us, of course, we'll share in a way that feels helpful and in the way that we feel led to use this platform. But that mystery and that respect for this union is something that will always come first.
Yeah, 100%. And I think it's kind of like a catch-22, because whenever we do like videos like this or on this topic, there'll be one camp who's like, oh, this is clickbait because you guys haven't gone into, you know, XXX amount of detail. And then there'll be people that are like, oh, why are you talking about this? Because sex is sacred. But for us, it's really that middle point of like, topics like this are important to be discussed, because we don't believe that sex should be a taboo. We don't believe that, you know, discussions about sex and disability should be a taboo. There are important topics, you know, that need to be had. I'd rather that like a person who's like coming of age, you know, and has a disability, or that's a dynamic in their relationship, they have a resource like this, and then kind of like discussions out there, or having to look at different resources that, you know, may not come from the best place for them. So yeah, like, it's important for us to talk about it. It's something we are going to talk about, and we'll probably talk about more on our podcast, the 2 and 10,000 podcast, which you can join using the link in our description, or just going to patreon.com/2 and 10,000. But yeah, on the flip of that, like, you know, my husband just shared, like, there is a mystery and a sacredness to sex. Like, some of the questions that we get, it's like they just take it too far. But I think as well, like, if you are in a position where you are an interable couple and you are getting questions like that, like, I've seen so many of like, how do they even do it, or like, what kind of positions.
What? Bro, what are you talking about, man?
You can find comfort, or at least some of, just speak for myself, I find comfort in knowing that, like, I'm being taken care of. Okay, like, my needs are met. You don't have to worry about me. Like, I am very happy, and just leave it at that. Like, no one has to know, like, you know, what's up, or like all of the gory details. As long as you're happy, as long as you're getting your needs met, as long as your man is getting his needs met, then
there's nothing to prove to anyone.
You don't have to prove anything to anyone, or, you know, show anyone how it's possible.
Yeah.
That's it.
That's it. And I think another like big part of it is when it comes to disability, there's almost permission to just ask anything and to be, I guess, insensitive.
Yeah.
Stop it. Get some help.
Vulgar.
Vulgar in a way that you wouldn't be if it was, somebody else. Or, I guess just using that lens of if this was, my brother, my dad, my uncle, my auntie, my friend.
Yeah.
How would I phrase this question?
Co-worker.
Yeah, co-worker. And a lot of people don't go through that process before they throw out a comment on the internet. And so I think a big part of our work is to ensure that, that permission slip that people think they have, because Winston has a disability. I can ask him anything about, his sex life or what him and his wife get up to in the bedroom. Like, that just needs to stop. It's not okay. And it's just going through that process of, this is a family member, a co-worker, a friend. How would I approach that conversation if I really needed to have it? If I've done all my research elsewhere and I still needed to know the answer.
Yeah, exactly. So I think the advice here is like almost twofold. If you are someone who feels any temptation to ask like intrusive or inappropriate questions to an interabled couple,
Stop it.
or a couple where disability is a factor, whether for both partners or one, stop and take a minute and think about how you'd feel answering that sort of question. And then on the flip side, if you are in an interabled relationship, the advice is to like, it's okay to keep some of that mystery. Don't feel like you have to answer these sort of questions or you owe it to anyone because it may look different to what they are. Like, have your boundaries and be okay with asserting those and keeping that mystery of sex and intimacy. And as long as what's going on in your bedroom feels good to you, then you're good. And if it doesn't, there are ways to improve that. Like, focus your energy on that, not appeasing strangers, or it could be people who are in your life, like people who you do know. Like, you don't owe them any of that.
It's a journey.
Yes.
And we're learning every day. And again, this is a topic that we're going to be diving into on the podcast. So all the info is in the description. But yeah, we'd love to hear, what your biggest takeaway was, or if there was something useful that you gained from this video. Of course, don't forget to share it, because we think this is one of those videos that can actually become a super helpful resource for somebody out there.
Yes, and leave us a comment as well. I really want to have discussions about this. Which tip did you find most useful, most applicable? Let us know. Let's talk about it. But yeah, thanks guys for listening, and we'll see you guys in another video. Bye, Seatbelt.